All right, Zig coming in on the top. Today on the show, we have Lynn Drury, a New Orleans-based singer-songwriter who is putting out her 10th album. It's called High Tide. It comes out April 5th on all streaming platforms. We're going to listen to a tune from High Tide. This is the song Love Bomb. The song, Love Bomb, album, High Tide, available on all streaming platforms April 5th. And if you're in New Orleans, April 13th at the Maple Leaf, there's an album release show. Lynn is also playing the French Quarter Festival April 14th and the Jazz Heritage Festival April 27th. Alrighty, so Lynn was awesome. We had a really insightful conversation. It was very enjoyable and pretty relatable if you do any of the creative endeavors. And in retrospect, it kind of represents her music. Her music is very relatable. It's written from an honest place, and you get a very unique voice and unique perspective that you can find yourself in. Anywho, with that being said, if you can like, rate, review, subscribe to the podcast and any of the podcast platforms, it helps me keep talking to cool guests like Lynn and sharing their insight with you. And without further ado, we're going to dive into our conversation. This is my conversation with Lynn Drury. I mean, you doing music full time, it's like it's hard. It's hard, and you know what I mean. There's no gigs you say no to.
Yeah. Well, you should be able to afford yourself that, but
hopefully that's the goal.
But
right?
I know what you mean. I've been there. But yeah, you're scared to say no.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's sometimes the best thing you could do. But
yeah,
I understand. I've been doing this 27 years now. So.
Well, I guess I would love that insight. I guess as far as to start off with saying no. I mean, if you don't mind kind of diving into that, because that is kind of when you do a gig that's constantly there, then taken away, and is never on stable ground because it's always fluctuating. I guess for you, when did you become okay with saying no?
Well, number one, you have to be the kind of person who is okay with floating along and being unsure about the next steps, Mm-hmm. I think you have to be okay with that, first of all. But saying no, sometimes it's been really hard for me. But as of late, you realize that you've worked really hard and you're great at what you do, and it deserves the respect, And so and it's almost like until you give yourself that respect, other people won't respect you either. So taking that gig actually does you a disservice if it's say, oh, well, you always come play for whatever, for $50. It's for the community or whatever, but
yeah,
you have to create your own leverage, I guess.
I get that. That makes sense.
And it's good to be busy, but it's also not good to be able to sit back and reflect on where you're going, because that's my biggest problem, is I just hit the ground running. And I did, in New Orleans, it's very easy to, 20 years ago, it was very easy to play 5-6 nights a week, have a good old time too doing it, but not really a directional, you're just kind of floating,
Yeah.
And you're not, it's what is your goal? I never really sat down and did the hard thing, not until you get older, and then you're like, what the fuck am I doing? It's easy to do it in New Orleans. I think it's a lot easier in New Orleans to play a lot and still kind of keep your footing, but I'm definitely not playing as many gigs. Well, I broke my arm too. I broke my shoulder, but um, so I've been recovering from that. But that kind of was the break that I needed, so to speak. To kind of sit back and go, wait a minute, like, what is most important to me, and where do I want to put all my energy?
That makes sense. No, that definitely, I appreciate that wise insight because, like, I definitely relate to that. Like, okay, it's Thursday. What can we be doing? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
that kind of like, if you're not actively trying to do something, you're missing out on some type of chance opportunity that's going to help you get to like a different, to get two different opportunities. I guess you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's like when you really enjoy doing it, you're like, oh, that was really awesome. That just happened per chance. How can I make that happen again? And,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the good gigs weigh into the bad gigs. You're like, there's a balance for every, all right, gig, we're going to have 5 bad gigs. Because there's so many factors you really can't control. You can't control people or weather or whatever. But you can control yourself. So,
And when you're playing, like if you're playing a lot at little bars and stuff, the other bigger clubs are not going to want to hire you either, because they're like, well, everybody's seeing you down here for free, and that's another thing. Like, I was like, why won't you hire me to Patina's? And they're like, I mean, I'm just using them as an example, of course. Yeah. But you get to play to Patina's occasionally, as an artist in New Orleans. Everybody kind of gets to play there, but the people who play there often are the ones on the road and the ones who are not playing down on Frenchman Street or Bourbon Street or whatever,
Well, because I've been to Tipitino's once. I was on tour with a band as part of their nonprofit, and so we ran that there, and it's a cool venue. It's a super cool venue, but that definitely kind of seemed like that draw was like the out of town bands and like touring,
But yeah, they have a great just history, and now that the guys from Galactic, so it's owned by musicians now, which is really cool. It's actually owned by a band.
Yeah. Oh shit. Oh, cool. So so now they're really looking out. Like, they get it.
Yeah. I mean, you've done some really good sound work in there. They've opened it up above the stage, and somebody was just posted on Facebook that there's new green rooms, so I can't wait to see that. Like fancy green rooms.
Whoa. This one has a fridge and a microwave. Like,
no telling. Chairs.
So
I was listening to your stuff.
Oh, thanks.
Preparing and listening to Sea Level. I was digging it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You have a varied mix too, like me. I have a varied kind of genre bending,
Yeah. I picked that up going through your records, and you got a lot of them. Oh my gosh. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. But I kind of, maybe like, does this like kind of like kind of longing to do like this showman type of gig come from like your rodeo background? Like, how did...
I think so. I think that's something no one's ever really said to me, but I think you're right. Being 5 years old and winning, like having this big silver platter, and they're taking pictures of you, and you're like, I was daddy's little girl, I guess. And I mean, I had all of these, I don't know. I felt like the daughter, like kind of like the daughter of the rodeo. Like when I was little, it was sort of idyllic. We'd go to these rodeos every weekend. That was what we did. We didn't go on vacations or anything. We were working at winning. That's what my dad was doing. But, we were trying to compete, and he was training and doing all that stuff. So we were very much immersed in that culture, but it was definitely when I got used to winning, I was about 15 and I was winning all this money and all my friends were working at McDonald's, and, I had a different life, kind of from like I had my school life and my band and my cheerleading and all that. And then I went off and was this cowgirl, sort of, from the age of like 5 until I was 20, I sort of every weekend, not every weekend, because then I ended up going to college and then I just came back home from college and my dad sold my horse without telling me. And
Jeez.
that was very sad.
Yeah.
He was tough,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think having whatever, little fame that you have in your community, winning the rodeos and stuff. Yeah, maybe it definitely taught me a lot. There's a lot of discipline that I took. Like when I picked up the guitar, I was 25. So I was like, well, I know what I need to do because I know what it took to get to the national finals, high school, rodeo and stuff like that. Like I knew that I had to ride my horse every day. And so I knew that I had to play my guitar every day. And I knew I had to just get to a certain level. And then after a year of just learning chords and being completely enamored with like this outlet to write music, I just immediately wrote all this music and came out of me. And it was like, this is where I'm supposed to be, and I just followed that, and as soon as I got a gig, I knew that I had to get good in front of people. So I just I knew I had to get good at singing. I knew I had to get, so I sort of just, because I was old, I thought I was old, at 25 to pick it up. And it was really kind of I was older, but that being said, I was like, oh, by the time I'm 30, I better be somewhere, and I just kept putting that, okay, now by the time I'm 40, like I better. So I just hit the ground running. I just gigged as much as possible in the beginning. And I think when you're young and when you're starting out, that is the best way. Get every gig that you can and that doesn't pay, and every opportunity that you can have to practice in front of people and hammer out all that. And I learned how to read people I can kind of suss where I'm going to go with the music and stuff like that. So it was a really good experience. I kind of cut my teeth at Margaritaville before I could even really play guitar. I got a gig at Margaritaville, like about a year after shedding inside and playing a coffee shop occasionally. So yeah, I was doing weekly, like 2 days a week there.
Like 3 to 4 hour sets or like.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a big jump, right? Like.
Yeah. And just chonking away at my guitar. I got this rhythm style that is only me, but it's because I'm self-taught and I just jumped in and was like, yeah, I got good time, but that's my claim to fame is my timing is impeccable, but that's what people say anyway. It's a good thing to have when you're in music.
Yeah, for sure. It makes recording way easier.
Absolutely. Oh man, and that's the thing I want to do. I want to do more recording. Now I'm like getting into like, okay, I know I can hear what I want to do now, and I want to go back in the studio immediately. I got a couple of songs because I got the record, that's done, and I'm already thinking about the next thing,
Yeah, that's awesome. It's like the gig equivalent of the studio side. It's like, sweet, this whole project's done, but I got like 6 more songs for the next. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But it's as a songwriter, I gotta imagine like that practice is its own thing as well. Like before, kind of like leaving, because I want to pick your brain about that. To have 10 albums worth of material, like. I guess we'll just dive into that. But to have like 10 albums worth of material, like when you first started chasing these songs and like kind of just letting them come out, and like, did you was that always like the process is just kind of like events happen or like inspiration, then just kind of putting it out, or did you come up with like a practice for yourself like you would working on guitar and getting ready for the rodeo, like, do you come up with a routine for writing? I guess is my question.
Oh, that's probably my biggest hurdle, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah, I go through phases, you know, and I think I'm just relaxed now about it, and I don't beat myself up if I don't write every day. I do, um, I do write in my head and like, oh, okay, that's a little clever line, and maybe I'll write it down and then go back to it later or something. But there's always stuff floating around. I haven't been really super disciplined lately, and I used to go through these phases where I'd be like, oh my God, I'm never going to write a good song again. Because it would be like 3, 4 months and I would try and nothing came out. But I really do think of myself kind of like, you know, just a portal. So if it comes and then I know it's kind of pure when it comes just from the sky or whatever, you know, when it hits me. And I try to get as most, like, even if it doesn't matter what time it is or where I am, but if it comes, I try to like flesh it out immediately. And then I'm just like getting my little phone recorder out. Because I like to get the most inspired, you know, and then, you know, you might get, and then I got sidetracked here. Sorry. But, uh, but I used to worry, you know, and now I just don't worry. What happens to me is I'll have like 3 unfinished songs and I just book studio time. You know, I had 7 songs, I think, going in, and I had bits of other things. And I just whenever I have that deadline, that's I work really good under that pressure of, you know,
Hmm.
I kind of like I wrote one in the studio this time, which was High Tide, and that just came to me. That was an inspired kind of magical place. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, that was crazy. That was crazy. I've never been able to write a song in 6 hours, and then I stayed up all night trying to find the chorus, and I found the chorus, and then it was originally High Times. I was singing high. I did a whole take of without thinking about the water. I'm like, oh, I've missed an opportunity. It should be High Tide. Like,
Yeah.
it's so funny because I was like, it's been High Times, you know, like
Yeah.
I've been partying it up. It's time to like, you know, buckle down or whatever. I don't know. But but yeah, writing is elusive sometimes to me, and then it all comes back and then I just feel like compelled to communicate music to the world. That's just the way I feel. And I love doing it, and it brings me joy and all that good
Yeah,
stuff.
like it's definitely it's a interesting process, and everyone has like their own like thing with it. And like I appreciate hearing that if you don't write every day, you're not hard on yourself, because I've been trying to develop a routine for myself to write just a bit every day. Not even if it's a song or whatever, just doing writing exercise to get your head in that kind of like that space. I read this bit from Mary Oliver, that if you show up,
Ah,
yeah, that's sick.
I
If
love her.
she's so awesome. Um, but I can't remember exactly the bit. But if you make time and you show up, even if inspiration doesn't show up, you're more likely to catch it because you're always showing up. Um,
That's right. That's right. And I read the, you know, the Artist's Way and all that. I've gone
yeah,
through phases of my life wherein I, you know, journal every day, and I have a journal, and you know, in my experience, I go through little phases, you know. So there like I'll go through a big writing period, and then I'll go through. Now I'm in the sort of business marketing, you know, side of it. I enjoy the business too. I have a degree in business, and I enjoy learning all that stuff too. So it's kind of like I like split my brain, you know, equally among different tasks and stuff. But yeah, I'll go a few weeks without writing, and it's probably not the best thing, but I'm always kind of thinking of like a song that I need to finish. Like I'm always trying to like, okay, there's a music always in my head, I should say.
Yeah.
Probably for you too.
I definitely relate to that. And I think that's a good balance, actually. I think that's a good balance of being away enough to come back, and but still getting that, like, you should be doing something bug taken care of. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right,
like,
right.
I'm doing something. I'm
And I
doing this
think
interview. I'm doing this, like, like I'm booking these shows.
exactly. And I think also, you got to live a life,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And you got to live your life to have something to write about. And that's kind of, I did 3 records in a row when I started out. I did 2001, 2, and 3. But I had I had my whole life of picking up the guitar, and then I have 25 years of all this stuff in my head,
Yeah.
And after that, I started taking like 3 years between records. But in this day and age, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm excited about it though, because it makes me like, well, yeah, I can just go record 1 or 2 songs. I'm excited about that. I'm going to do that next.
So more of like a single kind of approach.
Yeah, I've never done that wherein I've gone and done a song start to finish in the studio in one day. That's going to be something that I want to try,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also want to try having like a whole like orchestra and stuff.
Oh, that'd be cool.
In the same room,
Yeah.
and have it all, just have everybody rehearsing all worked out, and everybody's like, no, you can't do that. It's gonna be too hard. I'm like, somebody's gonna mess up. I'm like, but wouldn't it be magical if everybody's energy was, just amazing, and it happened and it worked,
Yeah.
like.
Only one way to know is to do it. And like, what's the worst that
Exactly.
happens? Is that the song doesn't work out and like you have to schedule time again. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe my band members won't appreciate it as much as I do.
that's okay. I feel that
Right.
because some of my band members, like they bite onto my crazy idea after a while. Like it takes a little bit.
Yeah.
They're like, well, I don't know. And then
You got to talk them into it, huh?
or even just like, I think I am very lucky that they do trust me and like we have this support, like because we've been playing for a long time together, and they're like, I guess it would work out, and eventually down the line, like it's done. They're like, yeah, that was pretty good. Like,
That's pretty cool. Where does the term sea level come in, or?
The band. So, in high school, I was playing with a high school band, right? And we won like a talent show, and they gave us a gig. Like now you get a gig out of school. You're like, whoa. Like, but we didn't.
Nice.
But we didn't have a band name, and like our drummer, his name was Tom Durr at the time, so DER Durr, and this is right.
You didn't get any jokes.
Right, I know. But anyway, we're heading to it. I know, poor dude. We're heading to the gig, and the bass player in that group and my dad were joking around. We're like, what are we going to call ourselves? Sea Level and Durr. It spells out Cleveland Durr.
Oh, fun. Oh, okay, I get it. Okay, yeah,
Yep,
that's
and
cool.
then Tom moved away. I think he's a Mountie, and if not, I've been spreading this rumor that he's a Mountie, and I'll continue to do such until I learn otherwise. But like,
oh God.
but that's where that comes from. Like he left, so I stuck with it.
Oh, that's great. And so you've had it since high school. That's cool.
Yeah, and it has been different people, and like we really haven't like it didn't really take off until like after high school, not too long after high school, but like maybe first year of college, really, when we locked in and had a thing. But
Yeah, I've heard so much. I had a friend who moved to Cleveland, and this was after Katrina.
yeah,
So this was probably this is a long time ago, but he was just like, you got to get to Cleveland. It's a great scene up here. They love original music. And of course I never made it, I made it to Chicago, but I never made it to Cleveland yet. So I have to put that on my list because I'm going to be traveling hopefully this summer a little bit.
awesome. Well, when you do, let me know. Like we'll link up. We'll put something together here.
Absolutely. Yeah, I went to upstate New York last year and played with the band, and that was expensive. I did a whole week.
Yeah.
But I made it happen. And as fate would have it, an oak tree fell on my car.
Oh my God.
And I have a little Honda, right?
Yeah.
CRV. And the oak tree fell in the weirdest way. It did not total my car. We have this big, giant oak trees right on the streets of New Orleans. And I was at the rehearsal studio with the band, and the guy, the studio owner, Todd, was like, you got to walk out here. I'm like, what? I got a ticket? They're like, no, you got to come see. I can't tell you. It's a total New Orleans guy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I'm like, what? And he's like, seriously. And I walk outside. I'm like, you've got to be kidding. So it's like the oak tree fell on its elbow.
Yeah.
And the top of the limb just I mean, it was enough enough damage, but it didn't break a window, and it just dented the top of my door frame.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It looked like it should have demolished my car, but it didn't. But I'm saying that story, I'm telling that because it afforded me a rental van through my insurance company for $4 a day, this big giant van. And so I got to take, carry the band, I flew them up but I got to tour in this giant van, and then we had all the space we needed for $4 a day, and I didn't have to buy a van.
Oh my God. That's incredible that it didn't completely wreck your car. Holy shit. What a miracle that is.
I tell you what, 2023 was not good.
Yeah.
And no, I had a hurricane. I went on vacation in Florida, and my car almost flooded because a hurricane hit. A hurricane hit the condo we rented.
Jeez.
Seriously,
we
couldn't get back to it, and we flooded out in Pensacola. And then that was a triple. It was a triple thing for my car, involving my car.
Yeah.
No good deed goes unpunished. I go pick my friend up at the airport at midnight one night. And we're driving back, and I'm like, I got the masters of my new record, and we're listening, and wow. And then all of a sudden, she's like, oh, watch out. I'm like, cinder block in the middle lane of the highway.
Jeez.
So I swerved, and it hit my front tire. We're stuck on the interstate waiting for AAA. But that was the beginning. And then it was just one disaster after another for my little Honda last year. So
that's crazy though. What the fuck?
Yeah, my friend actually lost her Cooper because she met me in Pensacola. We were like, oh, my niece was turning 13. I'm like, I'm gonna do her a solid and take her to the beach, before she has to go back to school and everything. And then her little cousin came, and we went out to eat, and the hurricane came, and we literally waited back to the car, and her car was flooded, and mine was okay because we took my car. But it was crazy. It was crazy. I mean, I went through so many floodwaters, and that little Honda is still going. Still going. Still going today.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's incredible. That Honda, the Honda's magic.
This is not an ad for Honda, folks. Although if they wanted to give me a Honda Odyssey van, I would take it.
All right, what song would fit for a Honda commercial right now?
Oh my God!
Like the Hondas, that would be that's.
Oh, you're so right.
No, what you should do?
I'm writing this down.
Make a promo reel with your car dodging all these disasters.
Yes. Oh,
That would be sick. Be like,
dude.
we're showing up to the gig no matter what. Brought to you by Honda, maybe if they pay for this. Like,
You're giving me great ideas.
this is me and my bass player. We do goofy bits with all our stuff like this. So this is like this
Oh,
is
I
right
love it.
along our line of thinking. Oh my god,
That's awesome.
or yeah, high. You know, you can do one for high tide, and it's just dodging all these floods.
Oh my God. That's pretty good.
Uh,
Oh
but anyway,
man.
and your shoulder too. Like it's been a arduous year.
It has. It really has. The end of the year topped it off with, you know, I played a gig and yeah, I just turned around, someone else fell and I turned around to try to help and then I
Yeah.
fell
Oh my god.
and
Yeah.
it was just a bad situation. Just really dark, and I have no idea. I still don't know how I fell. And
Yeah.
it's really odd that I fell on my right side, all my weight on my right shoulder
Mm.
and on my left knee.
Yeah. Oh god.
So my left knee was all bloody and I
Yeah.
didn't even care about that. I was just like holding my arm. I was like, people were like trying to touch it and see if it was dislocated. I'm like, don't touch me. Don't touch me.
Oh my god.
It was scary. It's
Yeah.
scary because I never broke a bone. I've fallen off so many horses, Dave, and
That's
I've
crazy. That's crazy.
never broken a bone. I've been
Yeah.
knocked out by falling off of a racing horse.
Yeah.
Like knocked out,
Yeah.
for a minute and came to and never broken a bone.
Oh my god. I
But
that's well
Yeah.
with your shoulder too, was it right or left? Well, right, you said right. So right. So like
yeah,
you're strumming. That's like your engine. Like did it like
that's my moneymaker.
that
My
yeah.
moneymaker.
Oh my
My
god.
little right strumming arm. Yeah. I mean, rhythm is what I do,
Yeah.
I'm not a finger picker or anything like that. I'm just a chugger,
Yeah.
And so it's been weird because I've been going to PT, and they're just killing me, but I'm probably about 65, 70% back,
That's awesome. That's such
yeah.
that's such a hard process. Like,
Ooh, I tell you,
yeah.
you don't want to do those exercises. And then you
Uh,
see the results of them
Yeah.
after all the pain. And you're like, oh, okay, I got another couple of degrees out of that, because I can't really lift my arm past halfway, a little bit past halfway now. But
okay.
what was happening is the band was like, oh, we can't even tell. I did a gig with the band
Yeah.
couple of weeks ago and it's been 3 months or it's been a little over 3 months and they're like we can't tell but I can tell because I know you know yourself and so what was I going to say, so I went to the PT last week and I saw the doctor and I said my neck hurts really bad after the gigs and he goes, well, that's because your neck is taking up the slack for all those back shoulder muscles, like your shoulder blade and everything, all the stuff underneath that hasn't been working, and I thought that was fascinating. I'm like, yep, I knew I had a different, like my approach is a little bit different right now because I'm but it's coming back. I think it will come back. I hope so anyway.
Well, for sure. No,
But,
definitely. Like, if you're putting in the work and like, it's weird. PT is kind of fascinating because like you do all these things like you don't think matter. You know what I mean? You just know it's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good to do it, but you're like, I was just gonna help. Like, but it's
because it's kind of like you think it's nebulous. Like, well, I'm supposed to stretch this band for like 3 times, 12.
yeah,
And then you do it and then you're like, oh yeah, like I'm now like my shoulder blade is engaging again. I'm like, oh, thank God,
yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. I mean, it's not cool, but it's
Right, but it's getting better.
I'm
and
getting there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, like, I guess so. Kind of going back to like this early discipline, like model you learned as a kid is coming in clutch right now. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, as far as guitar, when I got to a certain comfort level of, and then if I had enough gigs, I'm not the type to really, unless I'm recording, I mean, I do pick up my guitar and play it, but if I'm gigging, I gig every day. It's not like I'm sitting around playing every day. You know what I mean? It depends on the gig too, but
Yeah, and also, well, that's your time. Like we were kind of saying, like, are you going to work to live or live to work? You got life in between the gig, so and you're still
yeah,
putting your time in. As far as guitar, as far as like honing the craft, you're still putting the time in.
yeah, exactly. And it's yeah, you get a little older and you're like, okay, I've got to conserve my energy,
Yeah,
and I can't do 3 hours. Like I'm, starting to play. Okay, I'd rather do 2 hours, not three. And
yeah.
you just kind of have to pick your battles. But
Do you notice that more with like kind of getting worn out vocally with long gigs like that, or is it
I
more?
don't,
Yeah,
I don't really singing. I don't really now. If I had four in a row that were kind of, like maybe if I was on the road and I had four in a row or something,
yeah,
and there's maybe you're not sleeping as well, and then yeah, I mean, I don't talk all day before a gig. Like I didn't even know I was doing it. I've just naturally enlisted these things where 15 years in, I was like, oh, that's weird. Whenever I have a gig, I don't talk to anybody all day, and I just piddle. I don't do anything. You know, I stay home, I piddle, whatever. I might whatever. I might do laundry or whatever. I'm just piddling around. I might clean something. I might, whatever. But it's a good 5 hour, 6 hour chunk of time where I was just naturally not talking. And I find that if I have a show and if I like, oh, I'll just run over and do this one thing, on the day of a show, it just totally messes me up. It's happened a few times where I'm like, thinking that I could go shopping or do something like that,
yeah. Just take care of something, get it out of the way, or
Just yeah, I'm gonna go pay a bill or whatever it is. Like go out into the world and into the hustle and bustle, and then you get back and you don't have any time to really. Because it's my brain. My brain wants to think about how the thing is going to go, and I envision myself there, and then I think about what I'm going to play and what's a good vibe to go. It's
yeah,
all that stuff. Kind of, I just, I've always done that. I've always practiced that, and I didn't even know I did it until, a few years, probably into it. And I was like, oh, this is what I just naturally do. I just naturally stay home and, piddle and have quiet time and save it for the show.
yeah. That makes sense though, because like one thing I've noticed that I've had to do is like before a show is kind of like dial back the what's up, man? Thanks for coming out. Yeah, cool, good to see y'all.
Yeah, don't feel bad about it either. Just yeah, that's me too. And those are the times when I'll forget lyrics or people take up my time before you know I love my family, but sometimes I'll have a festival gig, like Jazz Fest, and they'll all come into town at like 10 in the morning. And I have to play at 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. and they're all at my house like, Lynn, blah, 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 blah. And then expect me to cart them up and take care of them and everything. And don't get me wrong, I love my family. They're my biggest fans. But they're not going to get it, right?
Right. Yeah.
They're just not going to get that you need those 3 hours to think about the stage, to think about how it's going to go and what songs you're going to do. And just, you need that. I need that quiet time. For me, I need it.
Yeah.
Like
No,
after the thing is over, I will hang all day and night, but you know.
Yep, I definitely agree with that. You need to like de-problematize anything that could
Yeah.
potentially kind of throw you off, or just even, or I find like, or just not lose the voice until after, or whatever it is. Just like for me, it's not lose the voice. I don't know why. I've been working on changing a lot of things to preserve it, because I've noticed that I've been using head voice more and I lose that quicker.
Yeah, and it's allergy season here,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I noticed a little bit of changes, but it's good to stay on top of that. And what was I going to say? I do a few exercises and stuff too. But what was I going to say? I forgot. I was going to say something about the voice, but you have problems losing your voice. See, I save up my voice for the
Yeah.
show, but there are times when things are easier. When you're on stage, I can go, oh, okay, I'm having trouble, hitting that. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So a friend of mine, so when I write, sometimes I just write, it's always C or G, it's open chords,
Right.
first position kind of chords. And I realized that doesn't challenge my voice at all. Right. And so I have all these recorded songs out there that are low. I mean, I used to be a mezzo soprano, but I mean, I don't know what I am now, but anyway, what I was going to say is I had a friend, great songwriter friend, Alex McMurray, and he said, you have to, because there's these cover songs that I would do that are challenging my voice, and I can sing them because I do them, right? But I'm not writing like that. I'm not writing to push my voice where I should. Like I can sing a Stevie Nicks song, but why am I not writing to challenge my voice? So that was kind of a good exercise. So if you have a song that maybe doesn't challenge your voice, maybe just push it up a couple of steps and try to sing it there and push yourself. And then you'll open up your voice that way, right? Because you'll get used to it.
Right. No, that is
so that was a little trick that I started using. It's like, okay, well, this is in C. Well, let's just move it up and see what happens. And I can sing higher.
Well, yeah, no, for sure. You got a range, like going through all these records. There's definitely a range of different styles, but also how you are conveying the song. And I guess it's interesting too with your friend's advice. It's kind of like when you're thinking about writing the song, like there's the message that you're conveying, and but there's also kind of challenges you put yourself through to make that like as far as I'm going to write a song that says this and says that. Also, how can I convey that in different ways? So challenging the voice in different ways, or the music, the chord progression or lack thereof chord progression. You know what I mean? There's a thousand different ways to challenge that writing mind and the musicality that goes into it. So I think that's solid advice.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, as far as writing, I there's a lot of great writers here, and a lot of Nashville writers that I was paying attention to, and they would say, all the song form and all of that. You have to be smart and crafty, but sometimes inspiration is just one chord. I guess what I'm trying to say is you don't have to judge it. If it comes from the sky, I don't judge it. So City Life is one of my most requested. People love that song, and it's C and F all day long.
It's a good song.
Yeah. And so what I'm saying is there's no bridge, there's no form. it's just a stream of consciousness, really.
Yeah.
It was a brainstorm song. It just kept going, and it resonated with people, and so I've learned to accept that you don't need all of that stuff to have people respond to your music. You know what I mean?
Right.
And of course, I love the Beatles and I love rock and roll and I love bridges and all that. Like, yeah, I guess I'm just I love pop music, so I kind of follow that
Well, and
example,
yeah, and I also think like there's something to like having something simplified that amplifies something else. And like one song that really struck me was Blue on your new record that I think really does that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a sleeper hit. No, I think people are. It's funny. Sir, there's different types of people, and all my friends they love that song, and they also love "I Waited Too Long."
That's a good one too.
And yeah, but it's funny. There's different camps, of people. So Blue resonates with a bunch of people. They do love that song, and then other people not so much, but to me, it's just my life. That
Yeah.
song was a little bit of like thinking back on my childhood and rolling around in the ryegrass fields, and just like, yeah, and just how I started this whole thing was very green. I was very green, but I just kept going.
Yeah. What I like about it, it's like anyone can fill in their green, or anyone can
Right.
fill in their blue, and like it's as far as like I guess looking at it just like as a heady like kind of songwriter mindset, you've like made a position where anyone could place themselves in it, right? And like and
Yeah.
then it's not tricky enough where you can't understand where it's going to go, and everyone kind of can relate to that experience in their own way, like from the color statement to the response to it. You know what I mean? Like I was like, this is like genius. Like,
Oh, thank you so much, Dave. Yeah.
um,
I just got goosebumps from you saying that.
yeah.
Um, that's beautiful. And that's what I always wanted. I always wanted to communicate this universal thing. I always had this drive to communicate through song.
Well, and I think you definitely do that. Um, Another one on the last record, I believe it was, is it Go? Yeah, I think no,
Good.
Good was another one. Good was another one where it's like that kind of like when that chorus hits, it's like it's a whole nother like that can be so much to different people. Like that's and like aside from that groove being like super catchy too. Um,
Yeah.
like that whole pocket there and like where it resolves to the chorus with good, and then it like it like cascades with the harmonies and everything, and like like you have a knack for that.
Yeah. I think so much Motown and WTIX listening in my childhood, all the pop songs, and I loved radio. My sister collected records, and I loved music from the get go. I have my earliest memories are singing to the radio, um, and just gravitating to harmonies. So, yeah, I mean, I can remember where I was. You have that where you have picture memories of songs.
With certain things, yeah, yeah, or just like vaguely where they're kind of about, or things in the room.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I gravitated toward the harmony always, not the lead vocal. So I was always singing this third and fifth parts, like to Beatles songs, and anything really on the radio. In the 70s, I was a child of the 70s, so there's so many harmonies and good rock and roll and all that stuff on the radio. So I was always, my brain, and people don't understand this, but if I spend a lot of my time in silence, I do listen to the radio, listen to OZ a lot, and I listen to music. But if I'm like at a party or out, you know, when people are trying to talk and there's music on, my brain, I cannot listen to people's conversation
I know what you
with
mean.
music.
Yes.
I cannot, my brain, literally, they could be talking to me for 5 minutes, but if there's music on, my brain goes to the music and I'm listening to the music, and I just can't. And people talk to me and I'll just be like, I can't, I'm sorry. There's music on. I have to listen to that, you know, if it's good, you know.
Or just even being distracted. You're like, what is that? And they're like, so anyway, blah, 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 and like, you're just like, you can't like tune in. Yeah. No, I know what you
Can't
mean.
tune into a conversation when there's music happening. And I'll even tell people, like, even like I'm at their house or whatever, I'm like, I'm sorry, like, that's too loud. Like, I can't hear you. I mean, I just can't. My brain won't go there. Sorry.
No, I totally know that. Like,
I'm not gonna scream at you while there's music on.
Right.
Like,
Oh my God.
and
yeah.
that shows too. Like when you go to shows and people are like trying to talk to you when there's a band playing.
Yes. Why?
Why?
Yeah. Why? Why are you trying to talk right now? I can't. Let's go outside.
And that's the killer of the voice right there.
Yes.
If you go to a concert and people are screaming at you and you're screaming back, I will go home. And if that happened, like Mardi Gras, I went out that Tuesday and imbibed a little early morning, and of course ended up talking a lot to all the people I saw on the street. And then Wednesday, I had my regular Wednesday gig, and I was totally hoarse for that show. But I mean, I can still sing. It's just that I tell that I ran my mouth the whole day before. you know?
Yeah. No, I totally get that. Or like or even in the car when you're driving to the gig and the the radio's up way too loud. You're like, dude, come on, I'm not gonna shout to the gig. Like,
yeah, only with people. Like I was on the road with a band, and they all loved quiet too.
Yeah.
But then when we do listen to music, my drummer is Eric Bolivar. He's pretty amazing. He's not on the record, but he plays my live shows, and hopefully going to get him to record soon. But he plays with the Pimps of Joytime, and he's about to go on the road with them. And he plays with a lot of people. He plays with plays with a ton of people. But he and I just shared this love of like all this old like pop music from our childhood, you know. And we would just, he was like, oh, listen to this. And then we'd go through and like, oh my God. We had so much fun listening to music on the road.
But see, that's one thing that's super fun is like when you're hanging out with people and they're showing you and you can have that like spark. You're like, oh my God, I remember this. It's so good. Or like, I've never heard this.
Yeah.
This is so good. You know, like that's in my opinion, that's the best way to hear new music or to find, you know what I mean? Like that when you got that spike of like, whoa, like
I was, you know, when I was in high school, I remember being in the car with my girlfriends, and it was a dirt road, and I remember screeching the car to a stop in the middle of the road, trying to get them to shut up and listen to my favorite song that came on the radio. That's the one time where I don't remember what song it was, but I was like, you guys have to listen to this. And it was like 2 seconds and they were back talking. So it's like, I was always trying to get people to listen. And even like my senior year, you know, I was played clarinet. I was in band too. You know, all my best friends left school at noon because you could do that your senior year. And I stayed on the whole day without any of my friends, which was really strange experience because it's a very cliquey country school, you know. But yeah, I stayed the whole day my senior year because I didn't want to miss band. You know, I was such a band nerd. I loved concert band and all that stuff. But yeah, I was always trying to get people to listen to music. And then I went through phases where I didn't listen, that I was like very protective of my own sound, and like I have to find my own sound, and so I have to, just woodshed and no, I didn't want to be not inflicted is not the word. I didn't want to be influenced by something, and then I realized that my sound is basically all of the things that I listened to in my life, pretty much. Like, and that was that fear when I was like in my 30s. I was like a little bit of a fear there that, oh my God, I'm not country music, but I don't want to be country music. And then I end up like, well, I did grow up on country music, but I'm not country. But it's just finding that sound, finding your own sound, I guess.
That's such a weird process, right? Because like, especially with like kind of to go back into the business side of stuff, like you need to have that tag of what you are, right? And like on the creative side, you're like, I don't know what I am. I'm trying to figure that out. Like, or even just on the philosophical, like spiritual journey, I don't know who I am. You know what I mean? Like, and you want me to just be like country related or like, like.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that whole like wrap it up in a box. And
right.
I struggle with that, Dave.
Same.
Many years. I struggled with that. Why am I not on this show? Oh, because I don't play strictly country, or I don't play strictly rock and roll, or I don't play strictly blues. But I kind of weasel my way in there. And then I realized, you know what? If you're getting left out of stuff, it's actually a good thing. It actually means you're on the right track, And you have to just keep going with your own thing and your own sound and kind of, get your voice to be distinctive. Like that's very important, so that when people do hear you, even though it's maybe a different type of song, then they know it's you,
I think that's very wise advice. And I dearly appreciate that. Cause like,
I mean,
that
it's only this last record that I feel like it's super cohesive, and that's because Papa Molly is pretty much a genius, simplistic guitar player. Like he's just so great.
Is he who's playing slide?
Yeah. Well, which song?
Blue had some slide, but I don't know if that was lap steel. That might have been like, or pedal steel.
That might have been. Oh shoot! So we did have Roddy Romero on slide on one track.
Okay, cool.
And he sings back up on I Waited Too Long, and then I had some Lafayette royalty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yvette Landry and Roddy Romero on the record.
Yeah.
I felt like I had arrived.
Well, yeah, like I guess that's the biggest compliment, right? Is like that other people that you've admired can be like, yeah, I can get behind this. You know what I mean? Like that I gotta imagine that's huge.
Yeah, Papa Molly, I never would have guessed it, but he just came up to me. He's like, I know I can play guitar for you, and I was like, what? You're like, kind of deadhead, He has the 7 Walkers that he did. But he's from Shreveport, so he plays so good, He's like added every song kind of, to me, has its own little magical universe. And because of him, it all sounds cohesive,
Yeah.
Yeah, he's so good.
But I think, that's so, like, I think that's super important too. Like, because like we with my band, we find ourselves in like, we can fit in this bill, we can fit in that bill, and like we love this guy, we would love to do that. We can make a whole night of that. You know what I mean? And like we found ourselves in like adjacent related spots with like, you know what I mean? Like as far as it goes for like support acts, you know what I mean? That's one thing we've always wanted to do, and knock on whatever, we're slowly getting into some of those spots, now, but I think it comes from doing exactly what you said, like just following your own thing and being like, people will catch on or they won't,
Yeah. And be good to your, be good to your people, and those relationships. I mean, what you're doing right now with this podcast is really smart, and you're going to get people to listen to your music and get to know you, and you're going to make connections because I'm going to come to Cleveland.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's smart. That's the smartest thing right now is collaborating. I didn't know that when I started, and so it took me a lot longer, but it's a hard lesson, but you've got to, because I came from a competitive horse world, competition doesn't really work in the music, although I wanted to win when I started out, and then I realized, oh, no, you don't judge music like that. Music is, everybody's music. I mean, you don't have to like everything, but, it's not, whatever creative thing that they're doing doesn't go against your creative thing.
Right.
There's enough for all of us.
True.
And so when I stopped kind of coming from that place, and started coming from an abundant place where that kind of shifted things for me,
Right. Well, that makes sense.
And loving and being, supporting your community and stuff like that, that's going to go a long way. That's going to go a long way. And I didn't know that hard lesson until, later on, but.
Well, that makes sense. And I think it's a super important lesson too. Like when you're in that's interesting coming from like that, so I've always admired people with discipline, and like ever since high school, I'm like, I need to figure this out so I can do stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Little did I know, I think everyone at that age was trying to figure out discipline. You know what I mean? Especially as a teacher, no kid's trying to figure out discipline.
Oh God.
Or not discipline, dedication. Let me put it that way. Dedication to whatever they want to do, right? And like so I've always admired people that have had that thing together, and like. But I guess coming from looking at it from like a competitive edge, there is those other lessons to learn aside from that like healthy habit, and like I gotta imagine like, because you're right, a musical or a creative community is a community, and it only works when everyone kind of it only works, but like it works better for, I think, for anyone involved if they can kind of step aside and like also appreciate what's around. And like I remember learning that lesson too, and like luckily your homie who said that the Cleveland's got it going on, they're right. Like we have a very supportive crew.
I always had great feedback from and finding your tribe. Kind of you're not gonna get along with everybody. You're not gonna want to be identified with everything, but you can definitely find your people, find your tribe, find your musician friends, that other bands that are kind of on the same thing, or you complement each other, and and really nourish your fans and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's very important.
And I also think just by doing what you do, whatever that is, if it's cooking or if it's writing a book or filming a movie or making an album and supporting it, you're kind of leading the way for someone who's looking for that inspiration, and I think that so by supporting the people that are trying to do that for themselves and whatever it is, and as well as I think that's a super
absolutely
way.
Yeah. I mean, there's been being a woman too is different, but I've had older women rockers and stuff that have like, well, if she's still doing it, you know what I mean, then it's cool or whatever. Like there's been times, I tell you, it's for someone who's starting out, you have to love it and you have to be driven. And I can't stress that enough. It's like, yeah. And people go, yeah, you're, I'm sort of New Orleans successful or whatever, but yeah, because I'm driven by this passion that I have in my soul, and there's nothing I can do about it. You have to be driven. You have to be driven. You have to be passionate about it. And there's been younger women that have come to me and wanted me to mentor and kind of, so that's kind of cool to step into that role because I wasn't ready for it. I'm like, fuck, that means I'm old. Sorry, Amber.
No, dude, you're good. You're good. Sorry.
You know, like when did this happen?
Yeah.
You know, but it's good. It's good because I had those people for me too. You know, I had those women who are still doing it, you know, and as an example, still out there on the road, I'm like, okay, all right. There's no shame in doing something that you're inspired to do and growing old gracefully and still rocking out
Yeah.
and you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, that's huge because like I did know like I think the only like factor that says you can't do it is most people stop doing it. You know what I mean? And like
That's true. Like I've seen so many women. I came up with so many girls and women who were in the music business, and for whatever reason, you know, a lot of them are gone, and a lot of them I'm like, whoa. Every once in a while, I'll think of somebody. I'm like, well, what happened? But maybe you know they moved away. Maybe they're playing music in their own communities. But I guess, yeah. I mean, I chose music over having a family and all of that, and having kids and because I was kind of told that I couldn't do both. You
yeah.
know, hindsight, I would probably have made some different decisions, but I am happy, you know, with my life and you know.
Yeah. And like I mean, I'm sure there's like I forget I was talking with someone the other week and they were saying when they had kids during it they thought, you know, it was pretty much over it's creative wise. And then like it kind of gave them just a reprieve for when they were when the teenage years came and they're like, we can do this now, you know.
Right. And
But
that's funny because I see a lot of people choose like, well, the kids are now in college, so now I'm gonna get back to you know,
yeah,
pursuing that. And also my arm break was kind of that I like whoa. I am incapacitated and I'm fiercely independent. So that whole process of having the entire community like come visit me every day for like 2 months and wash my dishes and vacuum the floors and bring me groceries and just bring me pajama. I mean, the list goes on. I have everybody's name written down. I'm like, I was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed because I had never let anyone really give to me, you know, in that way. And that's a big lesson. It's a big lesson. And we can't do it all on our own, you know. We have to let people help us sometimes. So that's been a big realization, you know. But I know yeah, there's tons of older women who are playing here in the scene and it's refreshing because I feel like New Orleans supports that maybe more than other cities. I don't know.
I think New Orleans supports a lot of stuff way more than other
New Orleans,
cities.
New Orleans supports anybody. You want to let your freak fly over here, and it's all good in the hood. So,
but
yeah. But
but
at some point, I wanted to move to Nashville. I wanted to move to New York over the years, and I can't leave this place, especially now. I'm like,
yeah.
well, damn. When the community came together for me, I'm like, well, I can't ever leave New Orleans. That's just how it's going to be.
It's home now. Like,
I mean, we're sinking, but we still got it.
yeah. Oh, God. Oh. That's, I mean, it's a very hard thing. Like, I also, I have that thing where it's like very hard to accept because I most of my, and I was talking about this the other weekend, like everything I like do is kind of a giving thing. Like with my day gig, right? Teaching and like, I do a lot of nursing home gigs, a lot of open mics. That's just where
Wow.
I'm comfortable, right? Is
Definitely
doing,
the teaching gig. That's something I just started too.
yeah.
But it's just one student and it was a mother of a friend who's a fan. The mother is friends with a friend of mine, and she's also, and so she's like, I'm looking for guitar lessons, and she put it on Facebook, and they listed all these women that are great, and for some reason, she chose me, and I've been meeting this girl every week, and she's 13, and she wants to learn a Lumineers song for her talent show, and it's the talent show's in May, and she's got to get ready for it, right? But she's never really played, and so I was talking to all my musician friends. We do a little hang on Wednesdays, and I said, look, I didn't go to school for music. I mean, I studied music and I played music and I can read music, and I'm, but I'm self-taught guitar, kind of. I had a teacher for about a year, and but I'm just like, whatever you do, play in time. That's like, slow the song down, and I'm going to teach you what I know, and that's all I can teach you. You may get to a level where you're not going to need me anymore. But she's already doing great and playing in time in like 5 weeks, maybe now.
And that's the guarantee. Listeners,
I told her, she said, "Oh, my fingers are hurting." I go, "You got to pick it up every day. You have to pick it up every day. If you just played 5 minutes a day, you will totally see." But her fingers are already going, switching chords and stuff. Like, I said, I'm just going to teach you the way I was taught. I'm going to teach you some chords, and that's all I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you some chords. I'm going to teach you how to play in time, and that's it. And maybe a little theory, but that's not my bag,
Yeah. But that's so like, okay, when you know where that goes, like you can see like, oh, you're killing. You don't know how good you are killing it right now, and like,
and
but when you
and
know,
being kind of a cheerleader too for them, like, that's it. You got it. Look, oh my God, look at, you did it.
It's so that is really cool. That's a different type of like pride you feel that you can't really, unless it's that student pupil or that pupil teacher like spike of joy, like that dopamine spike that comes from that. I don't know. I don't think there's nothing like that. Like
there's tons of my friends that are like accomplished jazz, like professors and composition professors, and I just never thought I was good enough to be a teacher, and I always was reluctant, like, oh, I'm not that good. I only, but then I realized, no, I have something special to give, and it's rhythm, right? And it's time and rhythm, and so yeah. Like
yeah. No, sorry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's fun. But also exhausting.
Because music, like my niece is like super ADHD, but like she can already sing, and she's a really good singer, and she doesn't know it.
Yeah.
But I hear her, and I'm just like, oh. But if I try to encourage her, she's like, she's in that phase where she's like, oh, whatever. Like, I'm not going to be in band because my friend, she played 1 year trumpet, and I just begged her to stay in band, and she wouldn't do it.
That's one of
those. So I'm very sad about that. But
you don't realize how crucial those like boring. That's like the PT of expression, right? Doing these scales and like, you know what I mean? Like,
and all that I learned in band, I just didn't know I was like a sponge, because I was already ready for it, because I had that talent, and I had the ear,
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I know she's got the ear for it, so I'm just like, oh, you could get all this free
that's another thing.
Musical education, and you're not going to do it. And I was so sad and bummed, but oh well. She'll come back around to it like I did. Like I left like college, and didn't play music, didn't sing, didn't do anything for 5 or 6 years, and then it found me. And I was like, oh, light bulb, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's like, yeah, at that age, no one knows what they're gonna do. You know what I mean? Like you're
Right.
expected to like kind of know, but no one knows.
No, no.
Like,
And you kind of need to try different things, be
yeah,
curious, and
yeah.
travel a little bit.
Oh, man, definitely. And just do things and do them wrong. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
that's such an important lesson that so many people are afraid of, is to do things and then do them wrong or be bad at them. Like musicians, that's our like button. You know what I mean? Like to be bad.
Totally. Totally. Man, if I told you all of the self-loathing of, certain gigs where you're like, you leave the gig and you're like, oh, I totally messed that up. Or, and now if I'm on stage, I just immediately forgive myself. Immediately. I'm like, I've gotten this down pat, like,
Yeah.
okay, you made one little tiny thing that probably nobody noticed, and move on. We're not there anymore. That's a hard lesson to learn,
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm still working on it. Like that's
and also I used to browbeat my band, which I hate to say it. I was really mean. I was really nice, but then on stage, if they made mistakes, I would scowl and
James
give them
Brown
dirty
it.
looks.
Yeah.
And like I couldn't believe that they would mess my song up or didn't put the work in or whatever.
Yeah.
And really, it's my own fault. I just couldn't accept it that I didn't make time to rehearse them or whatever.
Right.
It all comes back on you. But now I just go, oh, we're gonna have a good time, and it changes everything. We're gonna have a good time. Maybe there's gonna be a mistake, but you know what? We're gonna have a good time, and through that, I have a better rehearsal kind of regimen now, but I had to learn my lessons. Yeah. And people were like, oh my God, she's giving me dirty looks. Like, because it was so important to me. The music was so important to me. And that's what it was. I just couldn't, but I was so lackadaisical in other areas, that I would get on stage and expect everybody to be perfect, and that's not going to happen unless you share that vision and you say, hey, this is what I want to happen, and let's make time, and let's, it's so funny because in New Orleans we had this culture of, we'll just rehearse on the gig, right? That's kind of how I came up here in New Orleans, and we're infamous for that. We're infamous, laissez-faire, right?
Yeah.
I got a 4-hour gig, we're going to work it out in the gig, and that's just not ever going to happen. It's not ever going to happen. Yes, if you played the same 4-hour gig 4 days in a row, sure. But you're not going to get that really communication and fine tuning that you really want for the song, And in front of people, it's not going to happen. So that's the way we did it, though. In the late 90s, when I started gigging in New Orleans, everybody would just rehearse on the gig. We were playing 4 hours for beer money, and for a percentage of what we sell in alcohol. So yeah, that took a while, but a lot of people started moving into New Orleans because it's such a mecca for collaboration and mixing of genres and music, and just so all these people came in with a different mindset and a rehearsal mindset. And New Orleans people were like, what? We're rehearsing? Like, what? Really? Like, oh, right, because we do want to sound good, So that was funny to be, because I didn't know any better, I started out, I just did like New Orleans does, we got this gig, here's the songs, we'll get it together and we'll play 4 or 5 hour gigs and let's jam, man. And that's fun and all that. But if you want to get serious about it, it's funny how the culture has changed here in the past 10 years, just with that aspect. Like people are taking it more seriously. And you should take it seriously if you want to if you want to be successful,
Yeah. Well, I got it, and I also like New Orleans, like that's like a music mecca, you know what I'm saying? Like, so like, I gotta imagine like, oh man, like the pressure to kind of just jump in that scene is pretty intense, Even if the rehearsal logic was like, oh, just do it on the gig, that also seems kind of intense. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
you
we're
have
gonna
to
be,
be a certain level. Sorry.
yeah. Oy.
Yeah, New Orleans. So it's not until we travel outside, right, that we
Yeah.
realize New Orleans has just like so spoiled. New Orleans people are so spoiled with great music that you feel like nobody likes my music here. It's not true, right? There's just so much great music. But, being New Orleans famous is really cool. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you're like, wow, I must, because you go out of town and no offense to, but it's just like, you don't have that level of music all the time happening in the streets and everywhere.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like,
And so you're immersed in it here. And if you can't cut it here, yeah, you have to go back to Des Moines or something. I don't know.
But if you can't cut it
going
there,
out to these
cut it
towns
anywhere.
and touring, that's when you realize, like, oh, fuck, people really respond to us, and because they don't have that, they're not immersed in that like we are. And that's a beautiful thing. We're very fortunate. But I mean, then there's other towns that have like a really killing scenes and stuff,
Oh, for sure. Like, yeah, but there's definitely something special about the mecca of like it being everywhere. And like, that's training, I guess, with the weights on. I don't know the metaphor for the harder workout. You know what I mean? Like at the moment, like, so that to be able to learn there, like I feel like no matter where you go, it's gonna kill. Like,
you're definitely gonna learn some good rhythms. If you hang around here, it's a good rhythmic place to be. And I love it.
Well, Lynn,
I love the New Orleans vibe. So
this has been this. I very much enjoyed this conveation. I really
me too.
Appreciate.
I know. I realized we've been talking for a while.
Yeah, for a minute now, and like, I really appreciate your time, and I've enjoyed getting to dive into your career and just share this conversation with you. I'm glad you're healing up, and whenever you're coming through Cleveland, let me know because I would love to.
Definitely, Dave. I will definitely let you know. It was enjoyable. Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks so much.
Yo, Spike Spiegel here. You just listened to Zig of the Gig podcast. Keep riding the bebop. See you, Space Cowboy. Bang.